Hello दोस्तों, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In a previous video, I have discussed about method signature, return type and covariant return type for overriding, correct? So in overriding, how that method signature work, what is the important of return type, what is the important of covariant return type. So if you remember, covariant return type came into picture from Java 1.5 onwards. So prior to Java 1.5, the return type must be same for the overriding case, but from Java 1.5 onward, the covariant return type is also allowed. So covariant return type is nothing but it is the child of the parent return type. Okay, and in this video we are going to discuss some more rules about overriding. So today we will discuss about modifier and access modifier, kind of final, abstract, non-final, public, private, default, protected, how all these working in case of overriding. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the private. So suppose that in a parent class I have a class P, and inside that class I have one method private void m1, correct? Perfect. Now again I am going to create one more class C extends P parent, and here again I am going to override this method private void m1, correct? So this is the clear case for that overriding. Method name is same, method signature is same, return type is same, but just focus on this private part, correct? Since this method is private, so this method will not be visible outside of this class. So how we can override this one? It is not possible, right? So we cannot override private method. Though this private method individually, separately exists for this class C. This is the valid one for class C and this is the valid one for class B. But we can't say that this is override. If you will put @override on annotation over here, immediately you will get compile time error, compilation error. Immediately it will report the compilation error because you cannot override the private method. But without override annotation, if you are going to write this private void m1, it is perfectly fine because this method separately can be exist in a class C and its visibility will be only for the class C. Similarly, this private void m1 will be available only for that class B. So clearly one rule is that we cannot override the private method, right? Now come to the one more case. Second case I am talking about final, right? Let's say I have written my method final void m1, correct? I'm going to override is class C extends P, and here again public void m1, right? So in case of final, you cannot override the final method. If any method marked as final, you cannot override it, right? Even whether it is a non-final or final. Means, I mean to say, if someone tried to write like that, public here itself if final void m1, this is also not possible. Doesn't matter in a child class whether you are going to make it final or non-final. Since this is final in parent, so you cannot override. So final method you cannot override, right? So this is the one of the rule. So we have discussed about private and final. Private also cannot be override, but separately it can be exist in both classes. When you will put @ override annotation, at that time you will get the compile time error, correct? And a final, if any method in a parent class is final, you cannot override that. Doesn't matter whether you are going to put as a override as a final or non-final, correct? Now I'm going to create one chart. By that one I will let you know which is possible in a overriding and which is not, right? So let's say this is the parent and this is child, correct? If parent is final, so in a child can we make it final or non-final? No, it is not possible, because final you cannot override. This is not possible. But reverse, right? If there is a non-final method, then you can override as a non-final and as well as final, correct? So if you will override a non-final method as a final, what will happen? This the subclass of this child cannot override that method, right? Means if I will write a class, let's say this is a class P. Inside I have method public void m1, correct? And class C extends P. I am going to override it, correct? Public final void m1. This is perfectly fine. From non-final to final I have override, correct? But now further, let's say there is a class D. Class D extends C. So this class D cannot override this method, because this is the final for this D. This is the final, so class D cannot override this one. So that's why I am telling you non-final to non-final and final is permissible. There is no problem. But further, if this child, someone is going to extend this child, then the final one cannot be overridden to this one. So I have given this example. So class P, there is a method. This is a non-final method. And class C extend P, and I am going to override this method in class C as a final. This is 100% possible. Now class D going to extend C, but class D cannot override this one because this is a final one, correct? That is what I mean to say, this one non-final to non-final and final, correct? Now come to other part. Similarly, the abstract, right? If this is the abstract, if any method is abstract, so simply in a non-abstract, many times we used it, right? In our abstract class, if any method is abstract, whenever we are going to extend that class, compulsory we have to provide the implementation of that particular abstract method. Otherwise your subclass, means child class, also become abstract. If you are not going to provide the implementation of the abstract method in your child class, then your child class must be abstract. Otherwise you have to provide the implementation into child class for that abstract method. Okay, so non-abstract to abstract possible. Okay, now what will happen from non-abstract? Is it possible? Abstract and non-abstract. Non-abstract, there is no doubt, because we have seen if any method in a parent class is non-abstract, we can override into child class as a non-abstract. But is it possible, can we override non-abstract method as an abstract method? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible, right? So so this one, okay. So if I am going to override non-abstract method as an abstract, so what will happen? It means I am going to hide the implementation of parent one into the child, and its subchild, means its child, can be provide the implementation, something like that. Look here very carefully. This is a class P. Okay, inside this class I have one method that is a non-abstract method, means public void m1. Correct? This is the class P and this is a non-abstract method. Now I am going to create class C, child class of this P, extends P. I am going to override this method as an abstract. So abstract public void m1. Correct? This might be a public abstract or abstract public, it is okay, not a problem. But as soon as you will make this method as an abstract, here your class also should be abstract. Correct? Let me put it. Your class also should be abstract, otherwise it will complain, compiler will complain. Either you have to provide the implementation, or if you are not going to provide the implementation, overriding as an abstract method, then you have to mark your class as an abstract, right? Now one more class I am going to create, class D, and class D extends C. Correct? Here I am going to provide the implementation, public void m1. Correct? Here I am going to provide the implementation. So what is the case? In a class parent, listen it very carefully, understand it very carefully, right? It's a very important concept. So class P, inside that class P I am having one non-abstract method m1. In a class C extends P, class C is the child for this P, class P. Here I am overriding this method as a abstract method, right? So now I am making this method as abstract. Since I am putting abstract, so I need to make my class abstract, otherwise the compile time error will come. Now this is done. Now class D extends C, and class D is going to provide the implementation, right? So exactly what I did, this I'll hide the implementation of m1 in class C, and it is allowed for class D. Means class D can provide the implementation of m1, class C cannot provide the implementation. Correct? Is that clear? Okay. Now come to some other cases. Guys, understand these concepts are very important. Once you will understand it, you will be able to answer any kind of question related to overriding in terms of modifier, right? So we discuss final, non-final, abstract, non-abstract. Similarly, a couple of more, right? So let me again this one and parent and child. Synchronized native. We have synchronized method, we have native method, correct? Synchronized to synchronized and non-synchronized. Non-synchronized. So it is possible synchronized to non-synchronized and non-synchronized to synchronized. This is possible. Similarly, native to non-native and non-native to native. It is also possible, right? So this one possible, this one possible. By looking this chart, we can say that only final we cannot override, correct? Only final we cannot override. Apart from that, everything is okay. Non-final to non-final, final, abstract to non-abstract, non-abstract to abstract or non-abstract, synchronized to non-synchronized, non-synchronized to synchronized, native to non-native, non-native to native. All these possibilities are valid except final. Okay? Suppose that I have a class P. Inside that class I have one method, public void m1, correct? Then in class C extends P, okay? Now public to protected is possible. I am going to make it as a protected void m1, correct? Simple class P having method m1, and in class C extends P, I am going to override this method as a protected. Here it is public, and in child class it is protected. Is that possible? No. Immediately compile will give the error. It is not possible. Means the concept is that you cannot reduce the scope from parent one. You can increase, but you cannot reduce. So in an access modifier, the public has the highest visibility, right? And protected is less visible than public. So once you are going to override public as a protected, you are reducing the visibility. Earlier in a parent class, the visibility was public, and in child class you are making it protected, so it is not possible. Compile will give the error. So what is the possibility? The possibility is that the same, this is the class P and this is method public void m1 and class C extends P. Here only public is allowed. public void M1. This is possible, right? Now if I am going to make this public as a protected, correct, in a parent class, the public method I am going to make it protected. Will it valid? Yes, it is valid, because the visibility of protected is less than the visibility of public. So here we are increasing the visibility, not reducing the visibility. So in a child class you have to increase the visibility, not reduce the visibility, correct? So I am going to create one chart and will explain you what is possible and what is not possible, right? So first of all, going to make a visibility chart, right? So which one is private? Okay, less visible. Then default, then protected, then public. Okay, means default has the visibility greater than private, protected has the visibility more than default, public has the visibility more than protected, right? So it means public has the maximum visibility and private has the minimum visibility, correct? That is clear. Now suppose that this is your parent class and this is your child one, correct? Parent and this is child. I am going to make one chart for your understanding, right? So if visibility of a method in a parent class is public, okay, then what should be in a child class? Public to public is permissible, right? Because both has the same visibility, and since public is the highest visibility, in child we cannot reduce it. Only for the public visibility in a child only public is allowed, right? In case of protected, what will be? If my method has the visibility as a protected in public class, then what is possibility in a child class? So the possibility is protected itself and public, correct? Because public has the more visibility than protected, so public is allowed here. Come to the default. So default to default, no doubt, and then protected, no problem, and then public, no problem. Okay, so in a base class, if my method has the default visibility, then in child class it has default, protected, and public. All these three is possible. Okay, so this is valid. Public to public, protected to protected public, default to default protected public. And what about private? Correct? Very important case. When I started this video, I told you private cannot be override. So overriding is not possible in case of private. So private, if method is a private, then you cannot override, correct? So this could not be came into picture in terms of visibility, right? I hope is that clear. So today what we have discussed about modifier and scope, how it is going to impact on overriding, correct? So modifier we have discussed about final, we have discussed about abstract, we have discussed about non-abstract, we have discussed about synchronized, we have discussed about native. So what will be happen if any method is a final, then only you cannot override that method. Apart from that, everything is possible. Non-final to final or non-final, abstract to non-abstract, non-abstract to abstract and non-abstract, synchronized to non-synchronized, non-synchronized to synchronized, native to non-native, non-native to native, all are possible. Only the restriction is for the final one, correct? And for scope and visibility related stuff, private method you cannot override, but separately they can exist in both classes. But once you will put that @override annotation in a child class for the private method, immediately compile will report the error, correct? So overriding is not possible if your method is a private in a public class, in your parent class, right? Now if in a parent class, if any method is public, then in a child class its scope must be public, not less than that, because you cannot reduce the visibility, right? You can increase the visibility. So increase the visibility means if in a parent class your method has the protected visibility, then in a child class you can have protected and public. Similarly, for the default case, if in your parent class your method is a default, then in your child class it has the scope for the default, protected and public, correct? And for the private there is no overriding, correct? I hope is that clear. Thank you very much guys. In the next video we will discuss about exception, how exception is going to work in case of overriding. Thank you very much.